Namaskar, everyone. Thank you all for coming. We're so happy to be here. And for those on YouTube and online, thank you for joining us, whether you're live or recording, watching us recording. We're live at the Las Vegas Vedanta Center in Summerlin, Las Vegas. And if you haven't been here live, I know there's many of you who join us online, some from far away. But if you're in the area, we welcome you to come and join us. At the end of our talk here, we're going to be doing questions and answers. And so feel free to type your questions into the chat of the YouTube, and we'll have somebody read them out at the end of the class. And we do have some exciting coming events. On the 20th, actually the 21st and 22nd, Swami Satchimayanandaji is coming in from Seattle into Las Vegas to do 2 talks. And we'll be giving you some further information on that. So in September, October, and November, we have visiting Swamis. We have Swami Medananda coming in October, and I know everybody's going to be excited about him. He's a very big draw, as they say. Everybody loves to see Swamiji. And then, of course, we have Swami Arupeshananda coming on in November. And so we're very, very blessed. And then our president of the center here is Swami Vidyanandaji. And we're so happy to have him come once a month. And he comes either the first or the second week Wednesday of every month. So he'll be here on the 7th. So next week, Swamiji will be here live giving a talk. So let us begin. Let's start with a chant. Om Sato Ma Sadgamaya Tamaso Ma Jyotirgamaya Mrityurma Amritam Gamaya Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Om, lead us from the unreal to the real. Lead us from darkness into light. Lead us from death to mortality. Om, peace, peace. It's always a wonderful one to start with. So we're going to be continuing our selection of the Ashtavakra Gita, which for those of you who are new, some people are joining us, this is the 7th in the series of our class, so we finished the Ashtavakra Gita. Swami Sarvapriyanandaji described scriptures, and he put them into the 3 steps of experience that is described in the scriptures for non-dualism and study. And Shravana, Manana, and Nidhyasana are the 3 stages of listening. Manana is contemplating or thinking about these truths in these scriptures, and Nidhyasana is actual experience, first-person experience that you have with these states of consciousness, awareness, truth that leads to breakthroughs and changes in our own state of mind, our own natural habits, our way we deal with the world and people around us, and so on. And so Swami Sarvapriyanandaji did say that some scriptures lend themselves to the different stages. Some where you're just reading and you're just listening to truth, like you would from a guru if you're blessed enough to have a live living embodiment of these truths. The second way is that some of these are like, especially Shankaracharya, some of his scriptures are really letting the mind dragging the mind along, as they call it. So you bring the mind so that it accepts truth. It says, okay, I give up. This sounds okay to me. And that's the manana stage of intellectualization, more or less. And some people really get into this, they take a long time, I suspect, in this stage where, you know a lot of people that kind of are argumentative, or they're very intellectual, that they ask all kinds of different theoretical questions and so on. And that's fine. I mean, this is something that they say is very important, to let the mind become aware of truth and surrender to the truth eventually. So becoming convinced is a really good way of putting it. But this final stage, Nidhyasana, is really special. And as a matter of fact, Sri Ramakrishna, this book was in his room, but he kept it hidden. He didn't let anybody but Swami Vivekananda even read it or have access to it. He kept it hidden from all the other devotees and his disciples. He felt it was so special, so profound. And as you see how we're going to try to approach this, we're going to respect it as a Nidhyasana scripture. We're not going to try to intellectualize it. We're not going to try to to dissect it in that sense. We're going to try to put ourselves into that state of becoming the awareness, becoming the observer, becoming that first person, as they call it. And so that when we use the readings, and we'll use it as a guided meditation, you can feel it coming in, percolating from your own consciousness to your awareness, these truths, purely coming in from the self, instead of trying to use the mind. And so that's why this kind of approaches might be a little bit different. And I have had a chance to talk to Swami Sarvapriyananda a few times about this class and discuss it and dissect it. So he was very encouraging. And I told him we stole some of his stuff and his points, and especially one of the techniques that we have that we'll talk about in a minute when we do our meditations. But so this is something that I think has his stamp of approval, and hopefully we've had some pretty good feedback on it. It might be a little different than what people are used to. So what we want to do is we want to start this by getting ourselves out of our habitual self. So we're going to start with a little period of chanting. And that chanting is a wonderful thing because generally bypasses the mind and directly exposes the heart. And it also allows the mind to be cleansed of all of the things that we're thinking of. Because when we come from outside, when we have had work, or we've had our family situations, or we've had issues or problems or this or that, and we don't want to bring them into this space. We want to cleanse it. So if we chant, a lot of times it's a wonderful way of just focusing the mind and letting all those things pass away, and just getting into this state of divine awareness. And we'll use different things to help us to become that awareness, become that observer awareness. So this chant is called Hymn to Brahma. It's in our little books. If you guys have any what page? Does anybody see the page number? 14. 14. Okay, it's on page 14. This is actually a beautiful temple chant that we'll start with in Sanskrit, which has a beautiful vibration, but then we'll use the English translation also. Now, there's a couple of ways of using this chant. It's typically used as a exaltation to the Guru, or a worship of the Guru, and the state, but also describing his state of awareness, his state of consciousness, and then all bowing down to the Guru. There's another way of using this chant, as well as all scriptures actually, is you can turn it within, you can turn it inside. And you can actually start to just see yourself experiencing this, being in this state of consciousness yourself, so that you see that you are this. And I'll just read the English translation. And so you can kind of see how this lends itself. It's sort of like the Ashtavakra Gita itself. So this is the description of the state of awareness. Full of bliss, giving joy, transcendent, of higher knowledge, the abode, dual no more, clear as the heavens, known to all as thou art that. He is pure, permanent, unmoving, the everlasting seer of all, far, far beyond qualities and thought. Guru Lord, I bow to thee. So it's a really beautiful temple chant, actually. So you can actually start to use it to see yourself. You see yourself coming into the states of awareness, as well as if you have a guru that you want to use this to as a kind of a worship song, that's obviously perfect too. And you can use this however you feel is most close to your heart. And there's page 14. We're going to do a chant, and so Hymn to Brahma, and that way we'll be able to just kind of enjoy releasing the day and all the things that have gone on in our lives. And that's the lovely thing about chanting. So we'll do this, and if you're not familiar with this song, it's pretty simple. And we're going to start with the Sanskrit. Ekam nityam vimalam achalam sarvadhi sashibhutam avatitam trigunakamikam sadguru namami sadguru namami Brahmanandam Paramasustaram Kevalam Jnanamurtim Tadvandikam Gaganam Sadrisham Tattvamasya Nilanayam Ekam Nityam Vimalam Achalam Sarvadi Sashibhutam Bhavatam Trigunakamikam Sadguru Namami Sadguru Namami Full loveliness, giving joy, transcendent, abide, knowledge, me of will no more, clear as the heavens, known to all as the one that He is pure. Permanent, unmoving, the everlasting sphere of love, far beyond qualities and form. Lord, I bow to Thee. Lord, I bow to Thee. Full of bliss, giving joy, transcendent, abide, knowledge, of full of years of heavens, known to all as the one that He is pure. Permanent, unmoving, the everlasting sphere of love, far, far beyond qualities and form. Lord, I bow to Thee. Lord, I bow to Thee. That's better. It's a little louder than the other harmonium, isn't it? It's got some volume to it. So we want to maybe use this class, since we have some newer people here, and also some people are recycling into the class from the beginning. This is the 7th in the series, to just kind of give the ground, the basis of what this whole idea is, what the Ashtavakra represents, and how we get there, and what are the qualifications. Now in India, in Vedanta, you have, what's wonderful about the Sanatana Dharma is it really allows everybody to have any path that they choose to the divine to grow and to unfold. So, and no matter which type of path that you are naturally inclined to, there's things in the scriptures that can really give you guidance, inspiration, help, and there's gurus, there's different teachers that specialized in that type of path. So the kind of thing we're going to talk about here is not for everyone. It's not where everybody needs to be. This idea of non-dualism and these very lofty kind of conceptions. But they are helpful, And Swami Vivekananda kind of brought them to the West for the first time and brought them out from the mountaintops and kind of spread them out to everybody. So we honor that. But there are different paths to different stages. The first stage, we talked about this in the beginning, when early man started, the first thing you start to see around you is that you're a person and that you have a world around you, and you need a way to negotiate that. And there's things you need, right? Especially early man. So you need food, that means you need rain, you need animals, you need all the blessings to be able to get food. You need good weather. You need not to be killed by somebody. You need protection. You need all of these things. You need to find a mate. You need to procreate. You need to create a team of people that can protect each other, kind of a tribe, as you will. So you can kind of think about what early man needed and how he had this, kind of relationship with whatever he could consider as divine in the beginning. And a lot of times it was the elements, or it was the things that he needed, the sun, the rain, the things that he was dependent on, the animals themselves, in some cases, or some beings that they would kind of see as symbolizing certain things. And so it's called a dualistic kind of a relationship. It's you and something numinous, something huge that helps you, that you need, that you're not able to handle this by yourself. So you need that divine help. And so this has been kind of the basis of all religious thought that we were kind of aware of, especially in the West, is some sort of a dual relationship that we've created, either culturally or from our heritage or from the religion that we're having down to us. You might have Jesus, you might have in the West, you might have in Jewish tradition, you have a formless Jehovah. You have these relationship with this great creator God that also can be angry. And so, of course, in the East, you have different forms. Of course, you have Islam, which is the non-formed, but still a deity that you can't see, but is definitely controlling you and can be very angry with you too. In the East, you have these a whole host of different conceptions of God. And it's kind of sweet because not only do you have the Father God, but you also can have the Mother God, which has kind of been stamped out in the West. They really didn't continue that idea very much. But it's a very sweet relationship because the mother doesn't get as angry with you as the father does. She forgives you a lot more than the dad. Father is he exacts every ounce of retribution and so on, right? In our minds, we think of it that way. But the mother, she forgives so easily. You can get away with a lot with Ma, right? That's kind of the ideal. So that's actually part of the relationship that is codified in India. And then, of course, you have the personalities, Krishna and Rama, and many beautiful, different divine kind of forms that have literature and have different traditions with them and have things that are there. We have some of the teachers are more known for teachings than being trying to be a deity itself. So they kind of represent teachings, non-dual or so. So whether you feel that you want to have a dualistic relationship with God, and that's more natural, or you start to see this idea of what non-dualism can be, it's a very interesting thing to just contemplate and at least be exposed to. And it's wonderful that we live in the time we do, because in the ancient day, not too long ago actually in India, these teachings were not given out easily or freely. They were kept. And you had to be qualified for a teacher to accept you, to even give you these teachings. Even like just Sri Ramakrishna wasn't allowing everybody to have access to the Ashtavakra Gita, which we're going to read openly here today. So we're kind of cool, right? We get a little bit of a blessing. But it was even more so centuries ago, where the non-dualistic teachings were only for monks, only for those, and not only any monks, those who gave up everything to be qualified for non-dualistic teachings. And it's kind of a sweet thing to understand and mix. Swami Vivekananda talks about the 4 yogas, though. And we're going to use all 4 of those yogas, even in the exploration of the non-dual. And so he talked about the Bhakti Yoga as being, and Sri Ramakrishna said, it was the easiest approach to God. So this, if you think about a dualistic relationship that you have, whatever you think is the most profoundly the conception you have of something or some personality of God that you have the deepest respect and deepest devotion in your heart for. That's bhakti yoga. So whatever, however that is to you, if it's a form of a God like Jesus, or a form, or Rama, or Krishna, or Ramakrishna, or these divine, or one of the Divine Mother aspects. Some people can have their whole life focus and purify that love of devotion. And so that idea of bhakti, pure love, and they say the highest form of that is when you have love with no motive, love that doesn't ask anything. Because remember, the old days, you loved God because you needed to not be killed, or you needed food, or but it transcends even that. It goes to, I just love you because you are. So you're my everything, and I love you. And so the scriptures describe this states of divine bhava, pure love. So bhakti yoga, and that's a very, very beautiful path, and a very easy. It's Ramakrishna said, it's the easy of access path. But then for those also who maybe can't quite see themselves totally devoted to something or some form of God, we have karma yoga, which is something that the Christian church is familiar with, where you work without interest and asking for anything, disinterestedly, without any motive. You work for the benefit of God in everything and everybody. So you try to help those around you, or animals, or the planet, or just to work for work's sake. Some people will work because they want good merit. That's fine. That's a good start. To be able to get the blessings you need or want. That's certainly the way to start. A lot of people, we all start there, I think. But then again, sooner or later, you get to that point where you're working without any motive. It's purely blessing. And the way that Sri Ramakrishna described it was that it's worshiping God in man. So it's not even worshiping or helping somebody else out, or taking care of somebody else, or giving them some help. There's nobody to help but God. So the highest state of bhakti, of karma yoga, it becomes kind of non-dualistic also. So in bhakti, you love that deity so much that there's no, you disappear. And the only thing that's there is that deity. So it becomes non-dualistic. And karma yoga, the same thing. You work so much, and all you see is God in everything and everyone around you. And your work is your worship, and it becomes non-dualistic also, which is really sweet. Raja Yoga is the idea of meditational yoga, Patanjali's Yoga Sutras, where you have yama niyama, you have the asana, you have pranayama, then you have dhyana, and samadhi. And these are the steps of meditational yoga, learning how to meditate. And this helps you to overcome the body, the mind, the emotions, all these things one by one. And you go higher and higher until you have total absorption, or samadhi, in the final stages of Raja Yoga. And again, it's not dualistic. And that's kind of harder. There's not so many people that can sit there for hours and meditate, right? So the Bhakti Yoga and the Karma Yoga are a little easier of access for the masses. But then you have Jnana Yoga, which is interiorization, or it's not really intellectualization, but it is inquiry, self-inquiry, I guess is the best way to put it, and Vairagya. So it is searching, and we'll talk about some of the writings of Ramana Maharshi. It is putting your attention on that source of your identity, that I, that first primal I, and letting that even die, so that you go beyond your individuality by this profound, one-pointed inquiry, self-inquiry. And that really is the pinnacle. I mean, that's not for everyone, but it is a path. And so those are the 4 yogas. And you can actually mix them together, like Swami Vivekananda talks about. You can use all 4 yogas to progress. You don't have to just use one. And so it's kind of neat. So it gives us a chance to really see maybe some things that you could add to what you're doing in your own sadhana, in your own path. So I always like to use the writings of the divine ones, the realized ones, because we're just trying our best, right? We're all in the same boat together here. But I love reading some of these things that were said by people that really have a different center of consciousness. They're not like you and I, where we're just looking out of our eyes and our bodies and wondering what's going on around us, right? I think these people have something that we are a little different point of reference. So a couple of the people I will use, one is Ananda Moy Ma. I don't know if you guys are familiar with Ma, Ananda Moy Ma. Mm-hmm. She's a saint from India. And she never had a teacher. So she was realized just naturally from the time she was a child all the way up. She was always the same. She told the Yogananda, your daughter has always been the same. When I was in the womb, when I was born and I was a child, when I was a young woman, I was the same. She had the same awareness. So she never had any other awareness. She's really one of those rare beings that even boggles mind. But this is kind of an interesting thing that she said, because it starts us on the way here. It says, who or what is the self? And here's this Ma's answer. Depending on your orientation, you find him, which is your own self, as a perfect servant in relation to his master, as a part in relation to the whole, or simply as one self Atma. Very well. The many creeds and sects serve the purpose that he may bestow himself on himself along various channels. Each has its own beauty, and that he may be discovered and expressed in countless ways, in all shapes and in all form, and in the formless. In the form of the path, he attracts each person along the particular line that will guide him in harmony with his inner dispositions and tendencies. The one is present in each sect, even though outwardly there appears to be conflict among them, which is due to the ego nature being full of doubt. In true realization, one can have no quarrel with anyone. One is fully enlightened as to all creeds, faiths, doctrines, and sects, and sees all paths as equally good. This is the absolute and perfect realization. So long as there is dissension, one cannot speak of attainment. Nevertheless, one should undoubtedly have firm faith in one's chosen deity and path, pursued with constancy and single-mindedness. So this is Ma. If you're not familiar with her writings or her, she only passed away in the 70s actually. Mm-hmm. I know some people that met her. Amazing, because she combined all, just like Ramakrishna. One of the reasons why he's such an enigma is he combined all of the paths: bhakti, non-dualism, karma yoga, all of these things he exemplified. Ma also basically taught on all paths, and she was just amazing. But she also had that non-dual perfect realization, and she talked about it freely. So she was just truly something amazing, an amazing being. This is Sri Ramakrishna. One looks on God exactly according to one's own inner feeling. Take, for instance, a devotee with excess of tamas. Tamas is the lowering quality in nature, tamas, rajas, sattva. He thinks that the Divine Mother eats goat, so he slaughters one for her. Again, the devotee endowed with rajas cooks rice and various other dishes for the mother. But the sattvic devotee doesn't make any outer show or worship. People do not even know he is worshiping. His food offering to the deity consists of sweetened puffed rice and a few candies. Rajas is the activating or the active quality in nature or people. And sattva is that pure, elevating quality in people or nature. But then he said, there is also another class of devotee, those who are beyond the three gunas, tamas, rajas, and sattva. They have the nature of a child. Their worship consists in chanting the names of God, just his name. And that's really sweet. So again, this is a personal, the beauty about what Sanatana Dharma is, it's personal. And you can take it however you need to. You can take from it what you need to. And you can take it personal for you, what is natural to your nature. You don't have to become something you're not. You can just find a spiritual path that works with what your natural tendencies are now. And that's what's so amazing. Here's Ma again. A true devotee realizes that the Lord is within and without, that he is all-knowing and all-powerful, omnipresent, omniscient, and omnipotent. Understanding this, the devotee simply tries to express his total helplessness to the Lord and accept him as the sole protector and guide. In such sincere and open-hearted prayer, the devotee confesses the uselessness and the burden of his ego. He prays to the Lord to remove it or to destroy it. This kind of prayer is real meditation, and it will definitely take you to the goal. So again, she's talking from different points of view. In this case, for those of us who don't have this perfect realization that there is one awareness and we are that, we are separate from God. And the way that all of these end is our self-surrender to that highest conception that we can have of divinity. So our ego has to be surrendered. Our ego has to be given up at the end, at some point. Doesn't have to be now, doesn't have to be, something that we can't do, but when that time is right, then that time of total surrender happens in all paths, in all these parts of the path. So that was Ma talking to us. And this again is Ramana Maharshi. God alone is truth, happiness, bliss. Do not set your hopes on anything except the supreme beatitude, bliss itself. Nothing else exists. What seems to exist outside of is merely illusion. Try to find yourself. All this clamoring is but natural to man. He cries out again in the endeavor to get rid of his senses in sense of emptiness. The true aim of man's life is to realize God. The question of renunciation arises obviously only in regard to what has to fall away in any case. That which is eternal, that which is truth, has to be embraced. He who is himself bound will never be attracted to, will be ever attracted to be bound. This is the very nature of the individual. With the help of the Guru, one comes to realize the impermanence of things. Everything is possible through the power of the Guru. Even when you feel you have lost patience, do not relax your efforts, but try again and again. To your very last breath, never leave off striving. Pray to him that you may continue to remain at his feet all the 24 hours. He who has been initiated by a Guru must, under his direction, try to keep his mind every minute of his life engaged in spiritual pursuits, such as worship, japa, meditation, and perusal of sacred texts, kirtan, satsang, and the like. That's actually Ma, sorry. That was Ananda Ma also. And then just a couple more, and then we'll go into our meditation. We're going to get into the big guns here, Shankaracharya. And this is from Sri Shankara. Talk as much philosophy as you like. Worship as many gods as you please. Observe ceremonies and sing devotional hymns. But the liberation will never come, even after 100 aeons, without realizing the oneness, wholeness. Yeah, he doesn't play around. He's really serious. We'll talk. One of these days I'll do a video. I was up in the Himalayas and traveling around India a lot, and I have video and pictures of all of these places where Shankaracharya was before it's in the Himalayas and some places like that. And then we'll just do just two more, and then we'll get ready for our meditation. And this is now from the state. Now we're starting to go into, instead of this dualistic idea, once you start turning inward and start seeing these qualities inside of your own self, then everything changes. And this is what Swami Vivekananda said, that he went around all of India trying to find something that could give him peace of mind, bowing to everything. He's such an amazing way of putting words, but he said, my head was bleeding from bowing to everything that I saw around India, that I saw that was holy. He said, nothing gave me peace until I turned within myself. And then I started to find that which I was looking for, It was already inside. So this is now from that state of consciousness, when you start to turn in and there's only that one, there's nothing external. There's only that one awareness. This is written in that vein. Who is this self whom we desire to worship? Of what nature is this self? Is he the self by which we see form, hear sound, smell odor, speak words, and taste the sweet or the bitter? Is he the heart and the mind by which we perceive, command, discriminate, know, think, remember, will, feel, desire, breathe, love, and perform other acts? Nay, these are but adjuncts to the self, who is pure consciousness. And this is the Taittiriya Upanishad. So this is again one of those consciousness, one of those scriptures that just hit you between the eyes. And this is a little bit of inspiration from Swami Vivekananda. Every soul is destined to be perfect, and every being in the end will attain to that state. Whatever we are now is the result of whatever we have been through or done in the past. And whatever we shall be in the future will be the result of what we do or think now. But this does not preclude our receiving help from outside. The possibilities of the soul are always quickened by some help from outside. So much so that in the vast majority of cases in the world, help from outside is almost absolutely necessary. And this is from the writings on Bhakti Yoga by Swamiji from the Complete Works. So that gives us kind of the full spectrum of some of the writings that are available that we will be using in these classes, just to give us a perspective on all of the different beings. They all say the same thing in a slightly different way. And some of these writings might attract you more than others, or might be more clear to you more than others. So I try to use some of these different writings. You know, and it's kind of interesting. We talked about Ma never having a guru. Ramana Maharshi is very famous not to have had a physical guru. He just, at age 18 years old, or actually it was earlier than that, 16, he had a death experience. And he just went into where his body died. And he observed his body dying. And he said, well, okay, the body is gone. It'll be taken to the cremation ground. The emotions are gone. The mind there wasn't thought. But he saw that there was one identity, one awareness that was consistent, that didn't change. So the body was changing, the mind was changing, the emotions, all these things were floating away. But the awareness stayed the same. And he followed that awareness to its source. And he describes it a few times. And that state of awareness was permanent. He never changed his state of consciousness from that point. He had ended up from home somehow, and it's kind of an interesting story. One of these days we'll talk about it. He got to Arunachala mountain in the south, which is a very holy place, very, very sacred center of energy. And he stayed there all his life. He never moved from that young age, till he died in 1950. He never changed the state of consciousness, and he never moved from that spot. He stayed in Arunachala. And then you have Sri Ramakrishna, which showed us he experienced all the paths, all the ways that we can have sadhana, the dualistic states of worship, the dualistic things that we can do, the non-dualistic states, tantric states. He went through every path, every religion, even Christianity and Islam. He also used to give a lot of I don't know how to put it, but he put a lot of credence into Buddhism, especially Swamiji. Swamiji really had a close connection to Buddhism. So Buddhism has always been, one of those religions that are a part of the Ramakrishna tradition. So not only did he have paths, but he had all of them. He was a physical manifestation of every path to God, which is mind-boggling. I mean, we can only try to start on one, right? But he actually showed the completion of all of them. So there's always these different examples that you can have with these amazing beings, and they write from that state, from that perspective. And it's really helpful to have different kind of inputs. So we're going to get ready for our reading. That we're going to use the Ashtavakra Gita as a guided meditation because it lends itself perfectly to that. But we're going to do a meditation that we use from Kashmiri Shaivism that I'll teach you guys. Some of you guys have heard it because you've had the classes before. But it's a really perfect meditational practice that will get you to the state of that observer awareness. So that when the body isn't bothering you, you're not focused on the body. You're not focused on the emotions. Those are set aside. You're not even focused on thoughts coming and going. You're just the awareness. And in that state of awareness, that pure awareness, when I read the Ashtavakra Gita chapters to you, just feel them coming from the center of your consciousness. Feel them coming from your own self, the center of your own self, and expressing to you, to your outer awareness, to your outer mind. And that's the best way of really experiencing the Ashtavakra Gita. And then after that, we'll definitely talk about questions and things that maybe have occurred to you, and you can express anything that you want to in the rest of the class. We are going to, I thought I would also just really quickly, kind of, because we're talking about Sri Ramakrishna, Kali is a very good example as a murti. It's so profound what Kali represents. It is the image of Divine Mother, which is on the outside. It's simple because you can go to Ma and she can help you and protect you and forgive you and all that sort of thing. That's part of the whole idea of Ma. But it's so profound. You have Kali and Shiva. And Kali and Shiva Kali is the manifest reality of thought and creation. And so she is the queen, she is the creatrix. And she's dancing the dance of creation. And you can see. She also has benign and terrible aspects, just like the world. So she has all the aspects that are in creation, the light and the dark, the positive and the negative, the counterpoints of everything. There's different aspects of that in Ma. Even beyond that, though, she's pure bliss and consciousness and love, even beyond all of this duality. But we have Shiva, which is that non-dualistic state of being, where there's no beginning, there's no end, there's no cause, there's no effect, there's nothing that can even touch, even have a possibility of affecting this state of being. It's totally transcendent, totally infinite. So there's words to talk about it. But what's neat is that Ma dancing creation and Shiva are the both sides of this duality of perfect non-dualistic transcendent awareness, no beginning, no ending, but also the reality of creation, the reality that we see even realized beings dealing in creation, dealing in duality. So this is the full aspect of both aspects in harmony. And Swami Sri Ramakrishna called it Vijnana, not only Jnana, of non-dualism, but Vijnana. This is a Vijnani actually has being able to see all of creation in that same light of non-dualism. So there's no difference between him and some. If you look at the writings of Shankara, it's almost like you have to see the world as a dream, and you have to just focus on the fact that this is all a dream. It's nothing. You have to. I'm not this. I'm not this. I'm not this. So, but that's just getting to the state of non-dualism. But Sri Ramakrishna said beyond that is Vijnana, where that same awareness sees the world in that same unity. So that's the most non-dualistic state. And if you look at Kali in that sense, it's actually the perfect image of Vijnana, not just Jnana or dualistic or the Jnani state. It's actually Vijnana. If you see Kali as a whole, the image as a whole, the symbolism as a whole. So it's really wonderful that we can actually go into this idea of the non-dualistic, beyond all form, and that's where the peace is, that's where the healing is, that's where there's, they say mukti or liberation, where there's beyond hurt or harm. That's the only state, because anything in creation, anything in some sort of creation is going to be dualistic. It's going to have lights and shadow. It has to. Otherwise, it can't be expression. So there's no peace in any of this with that idea that there's something to experience or love or anything you need from outside. The only refuge is that non-dualistic state that goes beyond and allows all pain to be seen as just a dream, that it can't even touch you, it couldn't even possibly touch you, and then see the world from that state of mind. So this is the ideal of Sri Krishna and Kali, and I thought I would just bring that up a little bit because it's so beautiful that Sri Krishna describes Kali in this way. So let us go and get ready for the meditation. This is Kashmiri Shaivism, and it's really profound because we talked about Raja Yoga, where you have Patanjali's Yoga Sutras. This follows along in these sutras. You have yama niyama, meaning do the things that you shouldn't do. I mean, don't do the things you shouldn't do. Do the things you should do, yama niyama. But you have to live according to your own moral compass, your own principles. Then you can have peace. Then you can have relaxation. Then you can go beyond. Asana, being able to sit correctly so that the body can be overcome. And it doesn't give a specific asana, it doesn't give a specific position, but there are some guidelines that the yogis have given us. And first is to keep the spine straight, which helps. So feet flat, and if you're sitting cross-legged, you can do, cross-legged, the lotus position, but I'm not that flexible anymore, so I sit on a chair. And then just having the spine straight, the chest kind of forward, shoulders back, the chin parallel to the floor so that the spine and the neck are continuing in a straight line. And then the hands upturned because we're dealing with subtle energies. We're not going to go into all that. But one of the key things is just to raise the point of concentration of your eyes to the point between the eyebrows. It's said that if your eyes are focused upward, you'll go beyond thought easier. If your eyes are parallel to the looking straight out, your mind will be active and engaged, and you'll be thinking, the thinking mind. If your eyes go downwards and you're looking downward, you'll probably fall asleep because you go into subconsciousness. So the yogis say to put the point between the intent and the focus at the point between the eyebrows, and just the deeply meditating yogi, just that's locked in. They don't have any other awareness but that. So that's the helpful asana part of this. And now we're going to do pranayama. And pranayama is the link between breath and prana. And this is really key. So if we're sitting there trying to meditate, probably we're going to go crazy because our mind's going to drive us nuts. Or if we're going to try to focus on a mantra or something like that, we have moments where we can do it, and a lot of moments when we are thinking about everything else. So the idea of pranayama is that the prana controls everything in the body, the emotions, and the mind, even the thought process is controlled by prana. Prana is that subtle energy force, life force. So again, with the focus of the eyes at the point between the eyebrows, we're going to do a breathing exercise that's going to give us the ability to interiorize the energy. Interiorize, instead of going out to the senses, the prana goes out into this world. We feel, we hear, we sense, we think. But if we interiorize that energy, go into the spine, into the internal centers, then all those things can be left behind, where you don't feel the body and you don't have any thoughts, and you just are at a point of single awareness. And this is what we want. So what we're going to do is we're going to use breathing to control the prana. And this is the secret of the yogis. So what we're going to do is breathe in with a double inhalation through the nose, like this, for a count of 8, or as much as you can. So just have it continue on. So again, and then you hold for the same length of time, a count of 8, and then exhale through the mouth, double exhalation. And breathe in again through the nose. Hold for a count of 8, and then clench the whole body, tense the whole body. To count of 10, then you exhale. We're going to do that 3 times. And then that's preparation. The pranayama is this. We're going to just watch the breath with the point focused at the gaze point between the eyebrows. When you exhale that last time, Just watch the breath. Don't control it. This is the key. This is the exercise. Don't control the breath. Just watch it. And just when it automatically by itself starts to come in, you're going to chant mentally soul. And it could be a short breath. It could be a long, deep breath. Just let it be natural breath. And then when it stops, you just don't do anything. And when you exhale naturally, when finally of its own, the breath goes out, hum. And then it'll just stay, and then perhaps it'll come in slowly. It'll just exhale. When it finally exhales, hum. So hum. These are the ancient Sanskrit of I and he. With every breath, we are affirming the reality of non-dualism, that we are. So we'll just practice that for just a few minutes. We're not going to go for very long, because what we want to do then is once you get to that state of that awareness where you're just the observer and you're seeing these breaths, you're not controlling anything, you're just observing the breath, so hum. Then I'll start reading. Keep your eyes closed, stay in that observer awareness consciousness, and then let my voice come as from your own inner consciousness. And these sacred words of the Ashtavakra Gita, let them come from your own inner self, communicating and bringing these truths up. And just be aware, let them wash over you, let them just affect you naturally. Just be observing, okay? So let us begin with those 3 breathing, and then what? So you're going to breathe in for a count of 10, tense your whole body on that, hold the tension on the count of 10, and then on the exhale, just release that tension, all the stress. And then the second time, breathe in, tense, hold, breathe out. Release. Third time, again on that third time, just let the breath stay out and just observe it. And when it wants to come in by itself, so hum when it goes out. So hum. Okay. So let's begin with our first inhale. Ready? 10. Inhale, 10. Exhale. The breath stay out. And by itself, it comes in mentally chant so. Goes out again. So. My child, you may read or discuss scripture as much as you like, but until you forget everything, you will never live in your heart. You are wise. You play and work and meditate, but still your mind desires that which is beyond everything, where all desires vanish. Striving is the root of sorrow. But who understands this? Only when you are blessed with the understanding of this teaching will you find freedom. Who is lazier than the master? He has trouble even blinking, but only he is happy, no one else. Seeing this, neglecting that, but when the mind stops setting one thing against another, it no longer craves pleasure, it no longer cares for wealth, or religious duties, or salvation. Craving the pleasures of the senses, you suffer attachment. Disdaining them, you learn detachment. But if you desire nothing and disdain nothing, neither attachment nor detachment bind you. When you live without discrimination, desire arises. When desire persists, feelings of preference arise, of liking and disliking. They are the roots and branches of the world. From activity, desire. From renunciation, aversion. But the man of wisdom is a child. He never sets one thing against another. It is true, he is a child. If you desire the world, you may try to renounce it in order to escape sorrow. Instead, renounce desire. Then you will be free of sorrow, and the world will not trouble you. If you desire liberation, but you still say mine, if you feel you are the body, you are not a wise man or a seeker. You are simply a man who suffers. Let Hari teach you, or Brahma, born of the lotus, or Shiva himself. Unless you forget everything, you will never live in your heart. The man who is happy and pure and likes his own company gathers the fruit of his practice and the fruit of wisdom. The man who knows the truth is never unhappy in the world, for he alone fills the universe. Just as the elephant loves the leaves of the saki tree, but not the neem tree, so the man who loves himself always spurns the senses. It is hard to find a man who has no desire for what he has not tasted, or who tastes the world and is unattached. Here in the world, some crave pleasure, some seek freedom, but it is hard to find a man who wants neither. He is a great soul. It is hard to find a man who has an open mind, who neither seeks nor shuns wealth or pleasure, duty or liberation, life or death. He does not want the world to end. He does not mind if it lasts. Whatever befalls him, he lives in happiness, for he is truly blessed. Now that he understands, he is fulfilled. His mind is drawn within, and he is fulfilled. He sees and he hears. He touches and smells and tastes, and he is happy. Whatever he does is without purpose. His senses have been stilled. His eyes are empty. He is without desire or aversion. For him, the waters of the world have all dried up. He is not asleep. He is not awake. He never closes his eyes or opens them. Wherever he is beyond everything. He is free. And the man who is free always lives in his heart. His heart is always pure. Whatever happens, he is free of all desires. Whatever he sees or hears or touches, whatever he smells or tastes, whatever he acquires, he is free. Free from striving and from stillness. For indeed, he is a great soul. Without blame or praise, anger or rejoicing, he gives nothing. He takes nothing. He wants nothing. Nothing at all. And whoever draws near him, a woman full of passion, or death itself, he is not shaken. He stays in his heart. He is free indeed. It is all the same to him, man or woman, good fortune or bad, happiness or sorrow. It makes no difference. He is serene. The world no longer holds him. He has gone beyond the bounds of human nature, without compassion or the wish to harm, without pride or humility. Nothing disturbs him. Nothing surprises him. Because he is free, he neither craves nor disdains the things of the world. He takes them as they come. His mind is always detached. His mind is empty. He is not concerned with meditation, or the absence of it, or the struggle between good and evil. He is beyond all, alone. No I, no mine. He knows there is nothing. All his inner desires have melted away. Whatever he does nothing. His mind has stopped working. It has simply melted away. And with it, dreams and delusions and dullness. And for what he has become, there is no name. Hope you enjoyed that slight dive into the Ashtavakra Gita. Do you have any questions? Are there any questions online as well?
There's a few comments. Let me see.
You have anything you want to ask or bring up or observe or before we have our food and prasad and all?
It's just emojis. Yes.
Some good emojis. Well, that's good. Non-verbal, that's okay. Are there any things you guys want to ask or observe that you observed or that you experienced or?
I shared with you last week that it's hard to make questions after this meditation because I feel like your goal is achieved. Like when you're trying to incorporate your Upanishad into the meditation, it's like you reach and you can grasp the sense of a state of consciousness. I don't want to put that way, but the observer state. Right? But sometimes I also feel like mind is very tricky and it's the highest deva, right? So how can we don't get so mixed up between being in a state of observer and following the vasanas? They're so easy to identify and so easy to go with because we are used to it. It's hard sometimes to differentiate. So I was wondering, I had to bring my mind down during the meditation to be able to even think about it. So yeah, I was just wondering, how do we differentiate this? How are we able to differentiate,
Yeah, actually, next week I'll actually have something by Ramana Maharshi. Talks about how does one stay in that state. Of course, we're talking about having glimpses of it and experience, a real experience of it, not just imagination or not just intellectualization. That's why we use the meditation. We use the Raja Yoga because it actually will give you ability to have an experience that goes beyond an intellectualization of something that you're doing. Generally, you'll find that the Patanjali Yoga Sutras go Yama Niyama, Asana, Pranayama, Pratyahara is the next state. This is really, really important. Pratyahara is kind of when the whole senses turn in on themselves. One of the first things you feel is like the body's numbed out. Like you're not even aware of the body. You don't have that sensation of fingers and toes. You know what I mean? They're not really that prominent. And sooner or later, they're actually just really you're numbed out. The body's numb. The emotions become very just placid, and they're not affecting you. And then the mind actually can get to that one point. So pranayam, pratyahara, dhyana, dhyana, samadhi. Dhyana meditation, Ramana talks about is that single pointed focus. So what's fighting us? What's holding us back from that? And vasanas is exactly what Ramana calls it, and what Ramakrishna and Vivekananda. Inherent tendencies is basically the best way to say what vasanas are. There's something that we brought with us somehow. whether you believe in reincarnation or whether it just came from bad luck or whatever. Of course, reincarnation makes a lot of sense, but they say that our tendencies have been with us for incarnations and incarnations and incarnations. The idea that you had to come down from that to check it sounds like a vasana.
Yes.
Otherwise, you would have been able to stay in that state of just awareness. And it's really amazing. It's very interesting. There's talk that, if you just practice this, the technique that I gave you guys, you can do it anywhere and any time. It doesn't matter. But if you practice it every day more and more, it's an amazing technique. It really, really is. Because it focuses the mind. It gives you that awareness of, where's your mind? Is it the awareness? Is it something going on? Is it going out in all these directions? And it really gives you an ability to practice this non-attachment and this observer awareness in a real sense, because you can feel it. And you see the peace. You probably all felt some peace. Did you all feel some peace during this meditation? So you feel that peace, and that's the first step. That's the first stage. They say that as you get into that peace deeper and deeper, there comes this joy. Because it's Sat Chit Ananda, right? So existence, consciousness, and bliss. And bliss is the reality. And Ramana says over and over again, you are that already now. It's already there. You're just not aware of it. So as you become still, not only does the peace come, but later, just this joy, this deep bliss. It's so funny because Swamiji talks about it, and so does Ramana. One of the last stages, that a barrier, is that we become addicted to this bliss, and it's still separate. That's a separate thing, that you're experiencing bliss, and it becomes all intoxicating. But that's not a bad thing. I think if we can get there, right, we'll figure that out as it comes. Right? But these are the states of control that can be had, And the fact that you even have the desire to come to something like this or to practice kind of thing means there's tremendous good energy or vasanas that are affecting you too, habits that are coming. Just even that's what Holy Mother said. Just to have the desire for these things is a great good karma, great good karma. So it takes eons and eons to even get to this point. So all people who are really striving, especially in this inward path, turning within, like Swamiji talks about, it's a very, very fine state of striving, of perception. So just having this thankfulness for that, that we're here all together trying to figure this out is a really cool thing. Swami, any other questions or things that you guys want to say? Yes?
One thing I wanted to ask, and it's a very down-to-earth basic question.
Please, practical is good.
But, supposing you're doing meditation at home, and of course, after some time, your mind goes off, I have to get this from grocery. And then when you come back, should you do the thing again or just go into Soham?
I wouldn't do the full thing because it's going to bring you too far outward. What you could do is just take a deep breath and go, just one without tensing.
Okay.
Just a deep breath just to settle the mind again. Because it's like a reset. One thing that's really interesting too that'll happen is that breathlessness is very important in all of these steps. And breathlessness can come from many different ways. But through this meditation, you'll find that there's times when you don't feel like you want to breathe. You don't have the desire. It just doesn't come in naturally. And sometimes you force yourself to breathe because you're thinking, I should breathe, right? So these are really fine, subtle things that your mind tries to play tricks on you. So the more you can just let this thing happen, let the breath be, and you'll find that there's times when you'll have maybe long periods of time of breathlessness. That's what you want, because that's when the mind is really free from the body. As long as you're breathing and your heart is beating and all these things, there's a lot going on, and our minds are tied more to our physical bodies. But if you see a yogi, and they've studied this, their heart stops, their breathing stops, and they go breathless. And this is a really profound state. But you can get glimpses of that with the breathlessness, just glimpses of that, and just let it happen. So and it might become very shallow too, the breath, which is just barely going in and out. That's also fine, it's perfect too, because you'll just see that happen. So it's really wonderful. It really teaches you how to be the observer, not try to control. It's really cool. It's like the surrender. I love this meditation. I've done it for 45 years, a slightly different version of it, but it really is amazing. And then of course there's, you can do other things too, but this is a good one, especially when you try to get to the point of this awareness of observer, that you can actually get some tangible result out of it. It's really beautiful. But don't worry about it. Don't get discouraged, because your mind, sometimes your mind will be more cooperative than others. You always just go back to it, just like they say, always just go back to it. But they say the more sugar you put in water, the sweeter it becomes. The more you practice it, the easier it becomes, and it's just more easy to get to those states and stay there. And it's just a learning. Taking some time that's special for this, and at the same time, regularity of like the same time you practice is also helpful. They say the first thing in the morning or the evening before you go to bed are the best too, because it's before your mind gets trampled down by the world, and right when you're ready to go to sleep, it's a wonderful exercise. But I like doing it like when I'm flying in a plane, or if I'm doing something I don't need to put my attention on. I love to practice this as well, because you can do it anywhere. People don't know that you're doing it. It's not like you're doing anything weird or anything like that. So, is there any other? Sure.
As I'm learning English, I sometimes face like some difficulties to understand the differences between awareness and consciousness, because we don't have the word awareness in Portuguese, which is unconscious. And when we say that Atma or Brahma, the qualities are existence, bliss, and consciousness, I would like to understand the differences between consciousness and state of consciousness, because something that really resonated for me at the beginning of the class was the reading of Ascent, or she's a Swami, I don't know, when she says like, I've been the same, I was there, I have always been there. And that really resonated with me, because I cannot see, it's hard for me to see states of consciousness. I can see the mind being able to grasp its reality. And that's, I feel like, we describe states of consciousness. But I would like to know the differences, if there's any differences when you say states of consciousness and consciousness as a quality or as God.
There's a couple, I'll just finish with this explanation for you. There's a couple of things from different teachers that I'll get to. One is from a teacher that I have in the south in the same town, Arunachala, Tirumalai, where Ramana Maharshi lived. I go down there, and there's a teacher that I sit with, and they have a whole kind of a teaching in Tamil that's kind of analogous to the Sanskrit teachings of the North. They have a way of expressing it that's helpful. They consider they split it up into first person, second person, and third person. So that first person consciousness is you alone. The second person is thoughts or memories of that experience. So that's not a direct experience, but it is some echo of that experience. So those are the differences that I think that you're trying to distinguish. And Ramana talks about it this way. He said you want to follow your own sense of identity, I. And he said, first, there's the primal I, and then there's Om. This is the way he stated it. This is a very profound statement if you really try to kind of digest what he's really meaning. So there's pure awareness. So if we're going back into these things, Om is all of creation, all of the thinking, all of the emotions, all of the vibration. Before that, there is a primal separate I. Amkara. That's the first I. And then he said, if you just try to see where that rests, What is that? Just try to find the source of it. Try to see it. Try to grasp it if you can. He said what you'll find is it doesn't exist. It's an illusion, and there's nothing behind it. It's basically the thoughts. It is basically the vibration. It is basically that reflection of a separate identity, a separate awareness. So it's a second echo of that pure awareness. It's very intellectual though at those stages. The best thing to do is to just use these meditations to just be in that, and once you get to that single point of awareness, you can just turn your mind inward and try to see what is my own I? Where does this I, what is this thing? Where does it come from? What does it rest on? Because I you can identify with, right? We can all identify with our I. And if we're really still and we're one-pointed, you can get really finely tuned into that I, that first I, separateness. See where that rests. And Ramana said with this Viagra, with this self-inquiry, what will happen is that basically that's when all thoughts stop. That's the way to actually, the only way he says, to actually stop thoughts. You can pause them with different exercises, but to actually cease thoughts, you have to find out where they come from, what their source is, and that is that I. So it takes the single pointedness that we're trying to achieve here, and you'll start seeing some real subtle differences in things in yourself that you never really noticed before. So it's a valid question. What I love about this approach is it's not just a valid intellectual question that you can go on for a lifetime asking the same thing, but you can actually have something now to experience this stuff in your own. If you put the time into it, if you really put the time into it, you get to that point, that one point it is, and you just observe. What I like to do too is when I'm going to sleep at night. If you do this practice right before you sleep, and then you jump right into bed, or you do it while you're in bed, what's great is you can really try to find that I while you're falling off to sleep. You really can pierce into that because there's no distractions. You're not worried about your body. You're not worried about something you got to do or whatever. Something pops up, put it out of your mind. It's a really great way to go to sleep. And there's actually one of the practices they teach in the Tamil system is erythral. It's a conscious sleep kind of technique, but that's part of it. And so it's really cool. So try that. You can use those times that you don't use wisely to dive into this stuff too. Okay. So Swami comes this Wednesday. It's the 7th, Vidyanandaji, and his talk is The Miracle of Life, which is cool. So we're going to have RT starting at 5, and his talk starts at 6 on Wednesday. So, and then there's going to be some food. There's always food. Like after now, there's going to be food. It's part of the Indian thing. You don't have to eat. I know, Wei, you're not really into eating at night, so don't worry. We're not going to force food on you.
I just control myself.
You can take food home too.
I can eat a lot.
But hopefully we'll see you guys on Wednesday. And then next Saturday, we will have another class. It'll be class 8. And it's a larger reading section, so we'll do less. But, if you build on this, I think you'll see that if you're here, it's a little different energy than if you see it online. And I noticed that when I went to see Swami Sarvapriyananda live, we were in Monterey with him and some other of the Swamis. And I'm so lucky, but I get to see these guys. But when you're with these amazing teachers, it's much different than if you see them online. So what's great with us, even though there's not an amazing teacher here, we're a group of us trying to dive into this together. And that energy is compounded. And so there's a sense of a tangible thing that actually helps. If you notice, you probably went deeper in meditation in this group than sometimes you sit by yourself. There's no secret to that. There's an energy compounding situation that goes on. And when there's an energy field, we all kind of pull into that. So coming to these live is a really great thing. I know some of you guys out in video land there, it's you might be in India. I know some people watch this from India actually. So it is what it is. So if you can come, it's great. So next week, it's going to be the same time. 4 will be the RT, the puja, and 5 will start the class. But for Swamiji, it's 5, we start the RT, and 6, we start the class on Wednesday. Because it gives people time to come from work. Okay? Thank you all so much. Very good, Maharaj. Okay, and we can stop. Thank you all. Thank you all for coming. By the way, there's flowers. I'm going to move this stuff out of the way, and you can put some flowers on the altar. We do have Ramana Maharshi, we have Mahavakar Babaji.